ladies and gentlemen, for our book. I thought it'd be appropriate. Angie McCarty is Paul McCartney's stepmom. She married his dad in 1964. I thought I'd just read a little excerpt from it. Okay. And by the way, these are on sale. They're autographed back there. The price was $35, but $30 if you're interested in it. What can I say about John Lennon that hasn't already been said? Having first known him as a famous celebrity and then having him in my home as part of an extended family and house guest was a bit surreal. Yet to me, he was not the big, bold, acerbic guy that the world often saw. I knew he would be sarcastic and was a very complex man with a brilliant mind. But from my perch, I saw him as a frightened little boy. His fame had created an invisible wall around him, and nobody could ever know what their experiences may have been like unless you lived through the madness as they all did. Jim, her husband, was always a little wary of John, and even Paul, I think, was at times aware of the need to tread lightly in his presence. So great was their competitiveness, yet they shared a bond. The bond of sharing their loss of their mothers at a young age. It was worse for John than it was for Paul, because Paul, at least, the continuity of living with his dad and brother Mike. Poor John literally had his mother ripped away from him several times throughout his life. I have a very fond recollection the time he and Paul spent a few days with us at Rembrandt, that was her home in England, when Paul decided that they should go to the nearby Chester on a little shopping spree. Jim suggested that either I drive them or ring for a taxi. Paul insisted on a real adventure, wanted to take the local Crossville local bus, which they did. They also disguised themselves in a couple of ratty old raincoats that Jim had used to keep in the greenhouse, and trilby hats, fedoras, and old pair of Jim's glasses. They evidently had a fine old time, and when they came home late afternoon, Paul said I should be expecting some deliveries. John had bought a huge crucifix, a Bible, some candlesticks, old books, and various other items from an antique shop. Paul, on the other hand, had bought a pine-frame bed, which was riddled with wormwood and threw me right into a right old panic. I got one of the local handymen to come around and spray it with some foul-smelling remedy, which I hoped would kill the little critters. John was very patient with Ruth, that's Paul's sister, who was a lively 5-year-old girl at the time. He did silly things and pulled faces and made her laugh and read to her at night. He had a very serious conversation with her about Teddy Bear. Mr. Ted, good old Teddy Bear, still lives in the chair in the corner of her bedroom and wears a black bow tie which belonged to Jim. I remember a morning when Brian Epstein called from London to say that the Beatles were number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the charts. I made the inevitable pot of tea, went upstairs and wakened the boys, got them down into the kitchen to tell them the news. They were chuffed. I guess that's happy, huh? Cynthia once related to me how John respected me for chiding him on his manners. Once, he absent-mindedly handed me an empty cup and saucer, waggling it to indicate he wanted another cup of tea. I sternly told him, "We have a word in this house, please." I wasn't going to let anyone, not even him, misbehave in front of little Ruth, who was being raised in a household where manners were a top priority. I remember getting books from Jim and Paul, who were shocked that I would take the great John Lennon to task, but he evidently understood my motives. I have one more thing here that I'd like to read. It was at Christmas time. I don't donate to a whole lot of charities, but this one in particular sends Christmas cards that you can send out to friends, and they also send you a little name with labels that you can put on your envelopes and not have to write them out. And this year I really enjoyed this poem. And for those of you who don't know, Rose is in Chatsworth in LA most of the week. And when I got this, we Skype every night and we see each other. And I was reading this and I thought, well, somehow I started doing it like Ebenezer Scrooge. So I read it for Rose and she got a kick out of it. Says, why don't you read that like you did for me? And I thought, all right, well, I'll do it for you guys too. The print is really small. It's called Christmas Bells by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black, accursed mouth, the cannon thundered on the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said. The hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men.